We're rolling.
Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast.
The Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 108, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Koth.
And I'm Jack Haas.
And here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
So today's topic is something that we've experienced firsthand, especially doing a fix and flip that we're wrapping up, where you don't want to save $200 if it's going to cost you $5,000 in value.
Yeah, in fact, this is real world stuff here. We were working on getting a flip ready for the retail market, and we were deciding, because you always have to kind of pick a line in the sand when you're doing a flip of where do you stop. Because you can just keep improving and improving and improving to the point where you eliminate all your profits. So we were kind of getting to that point where we're right up at that line, and we were analyzing a couple items, and I said, well, let's not lose $5,000 in value by trying to save $200. And that was kind of the light bulb moment that we realized that would be a great topic of discussion, because we run across this decision all the time. Is the thing that you're considering doing worth spending the money doing it? And there's a few considerations to take into account. Obviously, by this time, all the big things have been done. All the major systems are operational, and, we've taken care of the flooring and the cabinets and the appliances and all the big dollar items. So you're really just getting ready to finish a property up, and you need to decide where do you stop, and are there some last minute things you can do to really help either sell the property quicker or add value.
So this example really was spurred from a recent house that is on the market right now. In fact, we might put a link to it in the show notes just so you can take a look at some of the stuff that we do. But hopefully it hasn't sold by then. No, we want it to sell by then.
Yeah, right. And yeah, we're recording this on a Friday, and the episode will be up Sunday. So it'll still be live then. So yeah, you can take a look at the basement picture in this listing that we'll put in the show notes, because that was the thing that sparked the discussion, because the basement was kind of just dingy looking, just had a concrete floor and just kind of, dingy and dirty. And we thought, well, what can we do to this? And we thought, well, let's paint it, get some floor paint, sweep it up, paint it gray. And it's amazing how that changed the look of it. And basements are one of those things, especially here in the upper Midwest. And I'm sure this is true around the country, but in the upper Midwest, they can really range from complete dingy dungeons, full of mold and wetness and stuff, all the way up to really nice, clean, finished basements. And this basement was half finished, but we weren't going to finish the utility area that had the furnace and the washer and dryer. But we thought, can we just, paint the floor and just make it look nice and clean and fresh? And, it's really cheap to do that. It costs about $60 worth of paint, and we figured $100 worth of labor, 4 hours at $25 an hour. So about $160 to paint this floor. And the subconscious first impression feeling that you get when you see the pictures, first of all, and then when you walk into the basement, I just know that's multiple times that $160 that was spent. So that's what you're looking for in investing, is ROI. And there's not much of a higher ROI than that particular example.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll see if we can put a before and after, because I think I have photos of each one. But we painted the walls white and the floor gray, and it being that the walls down in the basement were all chipboard, and everybody kind of knows what chipboard looks like. They're dark brown, and they're not the prettiest thing in the world. We weren't replacing that, but just simply painting those white and the floor a light battleship gray really makes a difference, and now makes a dingy, dark basement something that looks like it's at least usable storage space.
Yeah, it's bright and clean, and and the debate is always, is this going to actually add value? Like things like replacing the furnace, the shingles, appliances, those types of things. You can definitely say that adds X amount of value, and there's all kinds of range of, whether you get your money back or 2 times or 3 times or whatever ROI is. And things like this, it's a little more vague, but we can just tell you from experience that I know for sure we made our, way more multiple times of the $200 or $300 we spent improving the basement. And it just pays off when people have that first impression when they walk in. So you have to really consider, am I removing an objection, or am I adding value, or possibly both? And we felt that it was definitely worth taking that step. So then that sparked a further discussion on what are some other things you can do that are really high ROI. So they don't cost very much to do, but they really improve that first impression, either in the pictures or when people are doing showings of your property. And mostly we consider these things in more detail when it's a retail flip. But don't forget about rentals either, because they need to be appealing to your potential tenants as well. So you really do need to consider all these things in a rental. And landlords, when you have a rental property, expense is even more of a consideration, because that place needs to cash flow and you want to really limit the rehab amount. So this is some of these things are cheap ways to get to that point where the property is appealing and very rentable.
Yeah, low cost, big impact. And what we're going to do is one of the things that your realtor isn't going to tell you is that some people, I'm going to say a chunk of the people that come and look at a fix and flip house, they're going to make their decision as soon as they pull up to the curb. So we're going to start at the exterior, and then we'll work our way into the house as we talk about these things. But I'm going to start things off with landscaping.
Yeah, on the same flip that we're discussing where we painted the basement floor, we also removed a bunch of overgrown bushes, tore all that stuff out, and just put down landscape fabric, edging, and some mulch. Very economical way to improve drastically the curb appeal when you drive up. It just looks clean and, fresh and new, and a lot less messy than it did. So I believe there's a very high ROI in doing those little things.
And we have a before and after of a place we did outside of town where we had a lot of overgrowth with bushes and stuff. So I'll try to put up a before and after. So if you go to the website, you'll see what we mean there. But ripping out overgrown or unmanaged bushes and shrubs, that really makes a big difference. And what is that going to cost? You go buy a pruning shears and have at it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
you can
even
make
if you're
a pretty
hiring
big
it out.
difference.
Hiring it out, it's not that much money, and that's really what we're focusing on, is things that aren't really high dollar items. Another thing is touching up the exterior paint. We've resided houses, we've repainted entire houses. Sometimes we just touch up the paint. You can grab a chip of the paint, go to Sherwin-Williams. I'm sure other brands do this as well, and you can match the paint. So nothing looks worse than when you drive up and you see the paint looks really spotty. So if you can match the paint, you can really make the house look brand new without having to paint the entire thing. It can be done in a couple hours versus, a couple days worth of work to repaint the whole thing with cutting and the trim and everything. If you can just freshen it up and make it look really, really nice, that's to your advantage to do that, and has a high impact.
And one thing that we've definitely discovered that works really well, and that a lot of people, especially in our area, kind of forget about, is painting the foundation. That really makes a big impact to the curb appeal. Yeah,
that's huge. And it gives you a chance to update it to a modern color. We usually pick like a deeper gray. It looks more modern. It looks really clean. It makes it look like a new foundation. Not that you're trying to hide flaws, but it just makes the foundation look more clean, solid, just better first impression, gut feeling when people drive up. And again, that takes a gallon or two of paint and a couple hours. I mean, it's not very much expense at all.
Soffit and fascia is something that needs to be looked at, repaired, maybe scraped and painted again. You get the impression that there's a trend here. Paint is one of those things that is going to be the cheapest and the biggest ROI you can experience when it comes to a lot of this type of suggestions we're making here.
Yeah, paint is, very easy to put on, and especially, the garage peaks, the house peaks. If those are starting to flake off, that's not very much time to go up and scrape those quick and throw a coat of white paint on. And it just looks so much better for that first impression, that curb appeal. Another thing we do is a new house number. Menards, you can buy really nice plates that look a lot better than the stick-on numbers. And one thing that's important to mention too is you want to walk your house, drive up to your house. And, in the course of rehabbing a house, you drive up to it a lot of times. But really do it with a critical eye and look at it as your buyers will look at it and see what kind of gut feeling does it give you, especially compared to your neighbors. You want to make sure you're at least matching the neighborhood aesthetic as far as the level of how nice things are. And if you can exceed it, even better, because you want to be a really nice house on the block by comparison. If you can at a great price, then that's exactly where you want to be. So new house numbers from Menards or any home improvement store is a really nice little touch up. And what does that cost? $15 for a nice plate and those nice metal letters and just a couple minutes to screw onto the house. So that's a great ROI.
Yeah, and when you're spending all of this time and effort on the exterior of the house, take a few moments and actually clean up and rake up the yard. I mean, it's surprising how that can be missed, but you don't want to spend so much time on the property or in the house itself and then not finish it off by getting the yard under control. That can make a big difference.
Yeah, do not underestimate the fact that when a buyer walks into a house or drives up to a house, the cleanliness factor overall is a huge piece of their gut instinct reaction to the property. So that's why we try to have a fresh coat of exterior paint and make sure that looks fresh, make sure the yard is raked, garbage is removed, all those things. And it goes for the inside, outside of the house. We've bought properties at a discount and done a little more than just clean them up and resold them, wholetailing basically, because the cleaning it up alone is a huge factor for buyers. So you need to drive up to your property and walk the outside, take care of the yard, and make sure you get rid of all the litter.
So, you're talking about cleaning. So let's move into the interior of the house then. And that's one of the big things that we do is we send in a cleaning crew. We spend a few $100s to have them do a deep clean of the house. So it smells nice, it looks nice, and we'll throw down even some runners on the carpet to make it. There's nothing more satisfying than getting a new electronic and taking that plastic off.
The protective film, yeah.
That protective film. So we basically do that to the carpet. We put a protective film on the carpet so that when people come in and take a look at the place, that's their level of new feel to it.
Yeah, it just gives the impression that this is a new house, and you as the new owner will get to unwrap it and be the first user, even though this house that we're talking about was built in the 20s. But all the flooring's new, the paint's new, so we're protecting the flooring, and it gives that impression that this has been well taken care of, everything's brand new and fresh.
Yeah, we'll go as far as, this is just a side hint, where the appliances, if we buy new appliances and put them in, we'll leave the blue plastic wrap on the appliances so they still look new too.
You want the buyer to know that these were just delivered. These are brand new right out of the showroom floor, right to your house, and you're peeling off the protective film, and you're the first one to use it, and that impression is worth a lot. Yeah, so cleaning is a huge thing, and it's funny because even though a freshly rehabbed house, all the work is done, everything looks great, if you tried to just list it as is, you're going to get a way worse response than if you run a cleaning crew through the house, because all the dust and grime and just all the little things that we don't pay attention to, and obviously your contractor typically won't finish and won't do a cleaning. They may sweep up the bulk of their dust, but nothing beats having a real cleaning service run through the house. And smell too, that's a big thing, right? So you don't want to have that dusty, just remodeled kind of smell. You want nice cleaning product smell, whether it's air fresheners or just whatever cleaning products that they use. That smell is a huge piece of people's reactions and first impressions of a house. Smell is one of the strongest senses tied to your emotions, right? So you want to utilize that as a seller to make sure that you're taking advantage of every piece of, every actionable item you can. You want to make sure that you use it.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a bit, where we'll put like a Glade plug-in, maybe something that smells clean in the laundry area or the bathroom, and get something that smells a bit vanilla-y in the kitchen, so there's fresh baked cookies. You've heard stories of realtors actually baking cookies before an open house.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great technique.
So
because you can picture yourself baking in the kitchen. It smells great. So, I mean, it's firing all the proper endorphins in your brain when you're walking through. And that's what you want. You want your buyers to be in an emotional state of, in their gut reacting positively to the house in an emotional way. That's the best state you can have your buyers in.
well, and then the electrical outlets, plug-ins, all of that, those plates, you'd be surprised how dinged up and broken some of those can look.
And covered with paint and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. People always paint around them. Take them off and replace them. What are you talking, 20 cents a piece for some of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, again, super high ROI item, the outlet and switch covers. Sometimes we switch out the outlets. Typically we do if we're doing a rehab, even as a rental, we'll switch the outlets out as well. That's a little more expensive especially if you have an electrician do it. But for sure, at least get all the covers. And you got to analyze the outlets and see whether it's worth doing or not. But typically it probably will be because that's not a very expensive item either. But for sure, the plate covers and the switch covers, that's a gimme.
Yeah. Take a look at your windows. Replace any window screens. Sometimes they have that little rubber gasket around the edge that you just need to pop back in. Just take a moment to, like Josh said, use that critical eye to spot some of those things that can be a visual problem.
Yeah, a lot of times, especially depending on the age of your house, you can have old phone jacks, phone cords running everywhere. Cable, one thing before I take the pictures, I always wrap up the coaxial cables, into a nice little loop at least, so they're not just 10 feet of cable strewn across the floor. I mean, just try to tidy it all up, and it takes 2 seconds to do that. Half the time we'll just chop those off because nowadays most people are going to just use Wi-Fi for their smart TV anyways, so cable is less of a thing that needs to be running through the house. So when in doubt, get rid of it. Make the room look nice and clean.
That's almost a saying I have in my house. If you open the refrigerator and you see some food there, when in doubt, you throw it out. So that's the same situation here. And I'd go as far as climbing up on the roof and tossing out any dishes and crap that might be up on the roof. It's just an eyesore.
Oh, the old satellite dishes and yeah. Exactly. And it's funny because when you re-roof, sometimes, they ask you, do you want to put the antenna back up? No, and get rid of that. Get rid of any eyesore and ugly old pieces of technology stuck to the roof.
Yeah.
Very
you can't
simple.
go any cheaper than just throwing something away.
Yeah, exactly. That's a high ROI right there.
So with that, going back to the paint thing, one thing to definitely take a look at is the kitchen. And one way you can really improve things is if you're dealing with some old cabinets and honey oak, they still function fine and they don't they're
structurally fine.
They're structurally, yeah, exactly. Paint them. Paint them a modern color and get them taken care of. It's going to be clean. They're going to look updated, but now you've spent a can of paint instead of $5,000 replacing all the kitchen cabinets.
Yeah, that's an economical way to go. At the very least, replace the pulls. That's the quickest, cheapest way you can update the look of the kitchen cabinets. And, that's kind of the level. Start at the pulls, then maybe paint if you need to go a little further, and then replace them would be the most radical option. So you got different options there based on your rehab budget and the exit strategy of the property and what's necessary.
Yeah, just make sure that when you're doing the cabinets, it can be kind of time consuming. So what you're saving there by replacing them, by painting them, you just make sure you're using some very good primer to cover them, and then the quality paint. So don't go to your local hardware store and buy the cheapest paint when it comes to this stuff. You'll find that you'll consume your time more than any savings you're going to see in your pocketbook.
Yeah, and if you're paying someone, you want them to get it done as quick as possible, and doing one coat would be the quickest way to do it. So one coat on and bang, right back on the wall.
Another one that we found that is a huge upgrade is light fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy like a 10-pack, a contractor pack at Menards of, just the standard cheap lights you put in the center of a room. I mean, those things are so cheap now. And when you walk into a room and you see an old gold, kind of crappy, dirty light fixture, I mean, it takes 10 minutes to swap that out, and a whole entire box of those is not very much. I mean, they come down to like, I don't know, $10 a piece or something. Mm-hmm. So, that's a very cheap way to change the look of a room. And you think about your average bedroom, it's basically got the wall, the trim, the flooring, and the light fixture. That's the opportunities you have in that room to make it look different. So if you've painted the room, you got the trim looking nice, you got new flooring, you don't want to leave a crappy old gold light fixture that's kind of half dangling. Why wouldn't you spend the extra, $30 it takes to buy the light and swap and pay somebody to swap it out? That's just a gimme in my mind.
So another thing that just came to mind is when you come in the front porch, or if there's a deck, take a look at that area too. It might take a quick paint job or a stain. That really makes an impact regarding that front entry, that first impression.
Yeah, and we'll throw up that's in this listing as well, that has a front porch on it. We painted that, painted the trim, painted the floor. It looks brand new. And maybe we throw a before picture of that on there too. Can you really see? And again, first impressions, right? Well, if you're walking in the front door after you've driven up, if you like the outside, that's the next thing you see is the porch. So you're still kind of in that first impression category. You don't want to walk and see a dingy old porch with the paint flaking off the floor and just looking run down. A coat of paint does wonders on that.
And then lastly for me is one thing that we've really seen as a big upgrade. It might look dated 10 years from now, but it's inexpensive to do now, is an accent wall.
Yeah, exactly. That's a pretty inexpensive way to update the look of a room. Again, like you said, in a typical bedroom or something, there's not too many things you can do to change the look, and doing an accent wall is one that's a pretty economical way of doing it.
In fact, some of the places that we've been renting lately, we had one, our vacancy rate here in town has been creeping up a bit. We've been trying a variety of things to incentivize people to rent our properties over somebody else. And the one property that rented quicker than anything else was just simply because it had an accent wall in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And that's shiplap.
Yeah, I think from tenants' point of view, they're looking at all these kind of generic places, probably white walls or off-white walls. And if you have something that stands out just a little bit and you're in the same price point, you got to give yourself every opportunity for them to choose you.
So I'm going to encourage, if you have any ideas, I'd head over to our Facebook page at REI Rookies and comment on this episode and share your thoughts and ideas on really inexpensive ways that have a high ROI that you do to some of your rental properties or your fix and flips.
And if you've been finding useful content in the show, make sure you head over to patreon.com/REI Rookies. Also, you can shoot us an email, info@reirookies.com. Like Jack said, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at REI Rookies. And head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other rookie investors out there find the show.
Remember, get off the bench
and get into the game. We'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by FargoTurnkey.com. Do you live in a good cash flowing market? If so, Turnkey isn't the best choice for you. You should buy in your market. If you don't live in a great market for investors, where can you find profitable cash flowing properties? We love the Midwest, where prices are reasonable and the people are great. Ever heard of North Dakota Nice or see the movie Fargo? That's where we live. We personally invest here and have lived here all of our lives. How does Turnkey work? We find the property, we rehab the property, we find you a tenant and place you under the care of our local property manager, who we trust with all our own investment properties. I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the form on FargoTurnkey.com and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. We have a limited supply of properties every month, so we can sell only to a few qualified buyers. See you at FargoTurnkey.com.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.